I was offered a simple mat to sleep on in the cloister, for which, I'll acknowledge, I was grateful. It was by no stretch of the imagination a comfortable sleep, but it was the best I'd had in recent memory. I'd hoped to speak more with the orc matron in the morning, but I found no trace of her. Again, it seemed I had neglected to get her name, and I rather felt too foolish to ask anyone else for it. If I was to make the journey in a day, I figured I'd best start early, and so I ate a tasteless bowl of oats as my breakfast, which, I dare say, I was also grateful for. I then took my leave of the chapter house of the Cloister of the Echo. As I journeyed away from the cloister, I felt again the chilling feeling that I was being watched. It was difficult to describe. I can only say that it felt like someone or something far, far away, something with very keen eyes. Something was looking right at me and licking its lips with malice. That was a feeling, at any rate. It felt very similar to the feeling of really, really needing a stiff drink, or maybe 12 stiff drinks. I even made it as far as the interior of a dingy tavern before it occurred to me that I had not a single coin to rub between my fingers. The bartender was a swarthy pirate of a man who had developed a preoccupation with tattoos. Even his face was covered with them. "What'll you have?" he barked at me. I haven't any money. I travel south, and I thought maybe..." The man scoffed and cut me off. "You're buying or you're leaving, drifter," advised the tattooed bartender. "And you don't look like you're buying, so I guess you must be leaving." In case I was missing the point, the man hefted a nasty-looking club in one hand and pointed at the door with the other. Resigned to a fate of thirst and sobriety, I made for the door, but as I neared it, a chubby hand caught me by the wrist. The only other patron in the bar, a rotund, stocky man who could easily have been mistaken for a dwarf, but, for the lack of a beard, smiled up at me from his chair. "You traveled south, and you thought something," said the man in the chair. "Samuel de Care would like to know what you thought." I was surprised. I didn't know quite what to say. The bartender momentarily glared at the pair of us, before throwing his hands up and complaining, "Whatever. He's your problem now, Sam." "Well then," drawled Sam de Care. "Spit it out then. What is it you thought?" I thought I should have a drink. It's a long way." "And you thought not paying for it?" the stocky man said, with an arched eyebrow. I suppose I hadn't thought about that far ahead," I stated, retrieving my wrist, and reaching to rub the back of my neck, awkwardly. Samuel de Care spared a glance at my missing arm. "Perhaps you should put more thought into your actions. Rufus here can get pretty violent with freeloaders." I backed towards the door again. "I'll just go." "Hold on," said the man quickly. I hesitated. "Your little pointed stick there." He pointed at my new dagger, where it dangled from my belt. "Are you any good with it?" Instinctively, I shrugged. I didn't see any point in trying to tell a lie about it. "Probably not," I said. "I haven't had the opportunity to find out." "A simple no would have sufficed," returned the man, but not disagreeably. "I have a proposition. We have something in common, you and I. We're both heading south." I was rather surprised to find the man still talking to me, so I simply nodded. "You, presumably on foot," continued the man. "Me, with my humble caravan." I blinked at him, dumbly. "Are you suggesting that you would hire me as a guard?" The man pursed his lips together a moment, and then burst out laughing. "Hire you as a guard? Heavens, no!" The bartender, having overheard, also burst into hearty laughter. "The one-armed vagrant thinks he's a knight in shining armor." It was not that I was not accustomed to ridicule. Perhaps I had brought this upon myself just by virtue of treading where I didn't belong. "If that's all," I said stiffly, "I'll take my leave." "Hold!" demanded the short man again. And again, I hesitated. "As a guard? No. But as a scarecrow, you'll do." A scarecrow? A show of force to deter bandits. What's the pay?" I asked, cautiously. "Half a flagon of ale," replied the man, readily. I glared at him. "Of course I wouldn't pay you," elaborated the man, in what seemed a purely practical and even calculated way. "Think about it. We're both going south. You'd be useless in an actual confrontation. We'll be safer together than separate. I have a whole caravan, and you've got half a set of arms. Half a flagon for half a man is not an unreasonable deal." I found myself grinding my teeth as I considered his words. They were cruel, but not untrue. "Essentially," continued the caravan master, winding up his pitch, "it seems to me you can choose to walk alone and thirsty, or walk with me and get yourself something to drink. Really, the sensible decision is obvious." The man poured half of his flagon into an empty mug and inched it towards me. "So, do we have a deal, Scarecrow?" asked Samuel DeClaire, with a knowing glint in his eye. The ale tasted like burnt piss. I had about an hour to kill before the caravan left from the south gates of the city, and so I decided to go back to the cloister and speak to the old orc matron again. I hadn't gotten far, however, before I found my way blocked by an unlikely pair of thugs. The orc was overflowing with muscles, and had a sea of dreadlocks flowing down his back. He wore a scale shirt, and what seemed like leather underwear, though I dare anyone to tell him so. He wore a pair of sandals that were way too small for his feet. His hands rested on the hilt of a massive stone axe. His companion was a wiry man with sallow skin and a curving yellow mustache. On his face was etched a permanent sneer. A carved sword swayed at his hip.
"Well, looky here,"
said the wiry man.
"What do you suppose? Is this the lucky fellow, mate?"
The orc grunted.
"I dare say he's heading to the cloister," continued the man. "I dare say he's the same chap we spied leaving the cloister not long ago."
The orc grunted again.
"I think we have a winner,"
exclaimed the wiry man, drawing his weapon. Somewhere at the back of my mind, a quiet but familiar voice prompted me with a calm and simple suggestion. "Run!" The man lunged at me, but I was already on the move, clambering down the alleyway and doing my best to knock over everything to obstruct the path behind me.
"Oh, I love it when they run,"
I heard the wiry man exclaim. The orc grunted.
"Such good sport,"
crowed the man, already closing the gap between us. As I ran, I tried to think where I could go, what I should do, but my mind was a blank slate. I didn't know anything about this city. I'd only been there for a day. Everything was unfamiliar. They kept chasing me, but not quite catching up, and I eventually began to feel that I was being corralled. Sure enough, the pair forced me into a long and narrow bridge, and as I ran towards the other end, my heart sank. A man waited there, clad in black, a cruel serpentine blade drawn in his other hand, a small metal cylinder in the other. Over his face, a black mask concealed most of his features. I turned to go back, but the other two thugs had stopped near the other end of the bridge. They weren't coming closer, but there was no way I could get past them.
"Did we do good that, Gov? Is this the fellow?"
called the wiry man from the edge of the bridge. The orc grunted. On the other side of the bridge, the man in the black cloak walked slowly towards me. He was not observing me so much as he was staring at the cylinder in his hand, which seemed to pulse with a red light. The cylinder had a lid of sorts, which the man eventually flipped shut, and and the cylinder disappeared into the folds of his cloak.
Yes,
the man intoned, in what struck me as a very lyrical voice.
Jolly fine, that,
responded the wiry man.
Can we get paid now, Gov?
patience.
Intoned the man in black, whimsically.
The other half once I'm finished with him.
What do you want from me? I pleaded. I haven't got any money, nothing of value. Please, just let me go. The man in black continued approaching and spoke a few words in reply.
Such a pitiful display.
The man was near me now, and I felt I only had one shot, so I took it. The man seemed quite surprised as I lunged at him with my dagger, and all the force I could muster behind it. Surprised, yes, but he made no attempt to dodge. My hand ached as the weapon struck hard metal, and the dagger fell from my hand. Useless. I quickly made a grab for it, but the man in black already had me by the arm. A tear in the fabric of his outfit revealed shiny plate metal beneath. His serpentine blade hovered inches from my face.
You sicken me,
spoke the man, which seemed an odd thing to say in such a musical voice.
Your disgusting mistake,
he followed up.
And I'm going to put you out of your misery before you do some real harm.
I'm no one, I found myself pleading. I didn't do anything. Please, just leave me alone. The man behind the mask scoffed.
It's always the dregs of society. Honestly, I have no sympathy at all.
I struggled to pull away, but to no avail. Beneath the mask, the man's eyes narrowed to slits.
What trick are you up to, wretch? What's in your other hand?
The man was confused by the fact I wasn't putting up more of a fight. Of course, any sensible person would defend himself with both hands, but I was only using one. The man in black had wrongly deduced that I was concealing another weapon, when in fact, it was only empty fabric hanging at my side. I twisted away from the man in black, and he interpreted it as another attempt at attack. He lunged for my other arm, putting most of his weight behind it, but of course, he grasped nothing, only thin fabric. It felt like smacking into a brick wall, but it did the trick. The man in the black cloak was thrust sideways into a rotted beam of the bridge. The beam splintered and gave way. Loosening his grip on me, he struggled to grab onto some part of the bridge, but his momentum and the weight of his armor worked against him, and his hands grasped only air as he fell down into the water, sword and all. The shrill cry and a hollow splash. I scanned the water, but I did not see him resurface. Quickly, I remembered I was still in serious trouble. I grabbed my dagger from where it lay and struggled to my feet. I was too tired to run, but I held the dagger in front of me as menacingly as I could. The wiry man and the massive orc came close, and the wiry man peered over to the side of the bridge at the water far below.
See that, mate?
Squeaked the man at his orc companion.
Rest of our paycheck just got sunk to the bottom of the sky. That's proper rubbish, that is.
The orc grunted.
That's why I always get half up front, I do. It's smart business,
explained the wiry man to the orc.
Not much left to do now, I guess. Fancy a bite?
The orc poked a metal forefinger in my direction.
Grub, puny human,
he suggested.
Nah,
said the wiry man, with a dismissive wave of his hand.
Look at him. He ain't even got a pot to piss in.
Take toothpick, suggested the orc, now pointing at my dagger.
Now, what you want with a thing like that? Get your head on straight. Honestly,
spoke the wiry man, reaching up and smacking the orc on the side of the head. The giant orc rubbed his head where he'd been smacked, and looked embarrassed. For my part, I no longer had any idea what the hell was going on,
Just a job, Gov.
said the wiry man, turning his attention to me.
Just trying to get paid. See? No hard feelings.
The wire man gave what might have been passed for a little bow, and then tugged the orc by the arm.
Come on, you big lug. All that running makes a fellow hungry.
In a moment, they were gone, but I remained. I don't know how long I stood there holding my dagger in front of me, more like a shield than a weapon. Eventually, once I'd gathered my wits about me, I realized I still had a caravan to catch. It seemed high time that I got out of the city.